So let us start the last class of this semester of this course. So in the previous lecture we were discussing Green's functions and we were looking at, I hope you can see this part of the board. So we were trying to solve this equation. Okay? And for the time being, this operator L hat x is completely general. We don't need to take any particular form of this operator, but later on we shall choose this operator to be a second order differential operator in the Sturm-Liouville form. So we will say that this operator is a second order differential operator which is self-adjoint. Okay? And in order to solve this non-homogeneous differential equation, we say this f of x was a known function, real function of x, and in order to solve this, we said that let g be a function which satisfies the following equation, differential equation. Okay, so we said that let g be of this thing, of this form. So g satisfies this differential equation, and this function is called the Green's function. And we want, let me also write down that x lies in the closed interval AB. So this is our interval of interest, AB. And we also wrote down the solution of the differential equation, and the solution was this. We explicitly verified that this is the solution of the differential equation, because if you operate both sides of this expression with L hat x and use this relation, then you will get this differential equation. So this is indeed a solution. And also one thing you should check, that if I say that yx, so there is if I impose boundary conditions on on y at x is equal to a and x is equal to b, then the same boundary conditions should also be obeyed by the Green's function g at x is equal to a and x is equal to b. So this is a second order differential equation, and you need to impose two boundary conditions, and the boundary conditions imposed on yx at the endpoints should also be obeyed by the Green's function at the endpoints. If this is the case, then this is the full solution of this differential equation. This function is a known function, as I mentioned earlier. So what we need to find is the form of this Green's function. So if you can calculate what this is, then you know the solution. Then you just need to do an integration, and you will find out the form of the solution of the differential equation. So this is the strategy in which you solve the problem. And in the previous lecture, we found that the derivative of the Green's function, we found out that dg x comma xi dx x is equal to psi plus epsilon minus dg x comma xi dx x is equal to xi minus epsilon. We found that this derivative is discontinuous at the point x is equal to xi. the value of this discontinuity, the two derivatives approached from the right hand side and the left hand side differs by this amount. This was the relation that we derived in the previous class. And the way we did it, in this derivation, we should remember that we assumed, when we derived this relation, we should remember that we assumed that the form of this operator L hat x is indeed in the self-adjoint form. Now we impose indeed in the Sturm-Liouville form, which implies that this operator is self-adjoint. So you take this form of the operator, put it over here, and then you do an integration, and that will lead us to this condition. So that we derived in the previous class. Now, see, this is the Green's function, and what we say is that it is true that the derivatives are discontinuous at this point when epsilon tends to 0 at the point x is equal to xi, but g1 x comma xi, the Green's function themselves are continuous at the point x is equal to xi. This is the condition that we would like to impose. So limit x tending to xi So even though the derivatives of the Green's function are discontinuous at x is equal to xi, we would like to impose the condition that the Green's function itself is continuous at x is equal to xi. Okay? There is no problem with the Green's function. That is continuous. Okay? And now you will see that, let us now come back to this equation, the equation which defines, this is the defining equation for the Green's function of an operator. If you look carefully at this equation, then you can immediately say that Lx acting on G1, and what is, let me also tell you what G1 is, I will mention it immediately. So Lx acting on G1 x comma xi is equal to 0, where a is less than or equal to x less than xi, and L hat x acting on G2 x comma xi is also equal to 0 for xi less than x less than or equal to b. Look at these two relations carefully. It tells us that L hat x G1 acting on G1 is 0 when x lies in this semi-closed interval. Why semi? Because this point is included, so it is closed, and this point is not included. X is equal to xi, that point is not included. So this side of the interval is open. And similarly, this true for this. Why should it be 0? It is quite clear, because see, L hat x acting on G is the delta function, and this delta function is only contributes when x is equal to xi. When x is not equal to xi, by definition, the delta function is 0. So in this case, x is not equal to xi, right? And therefore, when L hat x acts on G1, it must be 0. In this case also, x is not equal to xi. Therefore, L hat x acting on G2 is 0. And what are G1 and G2? G1 x comma xi satisfies the boundary condition, satisfies the boundary condition at x is equal to a. and G2 satisfies boundary condition at x is equal to b. Okay. So G1 and G2, G1 satisfies the boundary condition at the leftmost endpoint at x is equal to a, and G2 satisfies the boundary condition at the right endpoint, x is equal to b, and limit G1 and G2 are equal in the limit x tending to xi. So at x is equal to xi, G1 and G2 are equal. There is no problem with this. The derivatives are not equal. The derivatives are discontinuous. And obviously, since G satisfies this differential equation, therefore in this limit, so you can see that G1 is defined on the left-hand side of, if you divide the interval from a to xi and xi to b, then G1 is on this side. So in this interval, L at x acting on G1 is 0, and on the right side of xi, L at x acting on G2 is 0. This follows from this condition. Because when x is not equal to xi, the delta function does not contribute, it is 0. Okay. Now, let us proceed. So these are the conditions that we put on the Green's function. And now let us say that let u of x be a solution of L hat yx is equal to 0. Okay, satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a. Let ux be a solution of this equation. So you see that in case of a non-homogeneous differential equation with constant coefficients, second order non-homogeneous differential equation with constant coefficients, you must have learned that the full solution of this differential equation is equal to the solution of the homogeneous part of the differential equation plus the particular integral. That you must have learned in your school. Here also you see, to find the Green's function, our main aim here is to find the form of the Green's function g, right? And here also we look at the solution. To find the Green's function, we try to find out the solution of the, the strategy that we follow is that we try to look at the solution of the homogeneous part of the differential equation. And what is the homogeneous part? You just set f of x to 0. So L hat yx is equal to 0. And we say that let ux be a solution of L hat yx is equal to 0, satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a. Okay. Now, you see G1 is also a solution of this equation of this L at x. So G1x comma xi is also a solution of this equation, satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a. Therefore, this basically implies that u of x or G1 x comma xi is basically some constant c1 into u of x. Since this y of x is a solution of this differential equation, right hand side is 0, satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a, and G1 is also a solution of this same equation, satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a. Therefore, G1x must be proportional to u of x up to some constant, and therefore G1x xi is equal to c1 u of x. Okay, and this is true for in the interval a less than equal to x less than xi. Is this point clear? Are you okay with it?
Yes, sir.
If this is clear, now what we will say is let v of x be a solution of L hat x y of x is equal to 0. Once again, it is a solution of the homogeneous part of the differential equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to b. V of x be a solution of this satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to b. But G2 is also a solution of the same equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to b. This implies that G2 x comma xi must be proportional to V of x in this interval, right? So if we can find out what the solutions, what are the solutions of the homogeneous part of the differential equation L at yx is equal to 0, then you know the Green's function. So our task is to find out the homogeneous part, the solutions of the homogeneous part of the differential equation. Then you know what the Green's function is, and if you know what the Green's function is, then you can construct what the full solution is. Okay? So this is the strategy that we need to follow. So what we find is that, let me write down or summarize what we have obtained from here. Now we can actually calculate everything. So we are saying that g1 x comma xi is some constant into u of x in this interval, and g2 x comma xi is some constant c2 into v of x in this interval, where u of x and v of x are solutions of the homogeneous differential equation. U of x satisfies the boundary condition at x is equal to a, v of x satisfies the boundary condition at x is equal to b. And you also know that 1 and 2, these are the conditions that the Green's function at the Green's functions should satisfy. So this g1 is on the left hand side, so it is on the left side of the interval, and this g2 is from on the other side of the interval. Okay, so let us take this condition. It says that at x is equal to xi, the two things are equal. Therefore, what we have is, so g1 at x is equal to xi is c1 u of xi. So c1 u of xi must be equal to c2 v of xi. So this follows from this condition, from the fact that g1 and g2 have the same value at x is equal to xi. These are the forms of g1 and g2. You calculate what g1 at x is equal to xi is. This is this, and g2 at x is equal to xi is c2 v of xi. Equate the two from this condition, you will get this thing. This implies that c1 u of xi minus c2 v of xi is equal to 0. This is the first equation for u and v, because u and v are the unknown for us. If you can calculate what u and v are, you know what the Green's function is. Okay. Now let us take the second condition. Second condition tells us that x, the derivative from at x is equal to xi plus epsilon, you are approaching x is equal to xi from the right hand side. So this is g2. This is g2. So this implies that c2. So if you take the derivative, this will be v prime x evaluated at x is equal to xi. So this will give us v prime xi. Because on the right side, it is g2. The function is g2. This is the interval. Okay? And the left hand side, this x approaches xi from the left hand side. because it is xi minus epsilon, and therefore on that side the value of g is g1. And what is g1? G1 is c1 u of x, and therefore you have minus c1 u1 of x evaluated at x is equal to xi, therefore prime xi. V prime and u prime are derivatives with respect to x, and then you evaluate it at x is equal to xi, and that is equal to minus 1 by p xi. So you see that you have two equations. This is equation 1 and this is equation 2, following from these two conditions that g1 and g2 should satisfy. Now this immediately gives us that c1 is, or c2, whatever you like, you may put, c2 is equal to c1 u of xi by v of xi. So you can put it over here and you will get, so c2 is this. You now substitute c2 in this equation. If you substitute it here, then c1 will be common and you will have u xi v prime xi by v xi minus okay, and then you can calculate what c1 is. C1 will be equal to minus v xi divided by p xi into this w of xi. What is w xi? Can you see this? No, you cannot see this. Okay. You should tell me whether you can see the board or not. So this is and see this. So you can see from this equation that c1 is equal to minus v of xi by p of xi into w of xi. And what is w of xi? W of xi is u xi v prime xi minus u prime xi v xi. This is basically called the Wronskian. This is called Wronskian. And you can see that you had two equations, algebraic equations involving the unknowns c1 and c2. This c1 and c2, and the solution for this system exists only if this Wronskian is not equal to 0. And that is evident because the value of c1 is minus v xi divided by p xi w of xi. So if w xi is equal to 0, then you can see that there is no solution. So only when this w xi, the Wronskian, found by the solution. What is this thing? This object is basically nothing but u of xi, v of xi, u prime xi, v prime xi. So this object is basically nothing. You can put it in the form of a determinant. And what is the determinant? It is the determinant formed by the solutions of the homogeneous differential equation and their derivatives. So that is clear because you had two equations. One of the equations were c1 u xi minus c2 v xi equals 0, and c2 v prime xi minus c1 u prime xi is equal to this. The solution for a non-trivial solution of c1 and c2, if you want a non-trivial solution for c1 and c2, then the condition is that the determinant formed by the coefficients must not be equal to 0. Okay. So from there, you will get that this determinant is nothing but the Wronskian. It is called the Wronskian, and you also have the value of C1. Okay, this is the value of C1. Now you can substitute this value of C1 in this equation, and you can calculate what C2 is. And C2 will be, so C2 is, this implies that C2 is U of xi by P of xi, W of xi. So this is what C1 and C2 are. So if we have calculated what C1 and C2 is, so you know what G1 and G2 is. Okay. You can now substitute C1 here, you can substitute C2 here, and therefore you know what G1 and G2 are. And therefore you have solved the problem. You have found out what the Green's function is. Okay. Is this clear? Do you have any doubt in this calculation, in this derivation? This is the strategy in which you can calculate, or this is a strategy to evaluate the Green's function. Are you okay with it? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
So let me summarize what we did. The Green's function is basically a function on which, if a differential operator acts, it gives you a delta function. This is the first thing. And then what we did was the following. We said that let our operator, the second order differential operator L hat x, be in the Sturm-Liouville form. And if we take it in the Sturm-Liouville form, then when it acts on the Green's function, it gives a delta function. Now you integrate that equation. If you integrate that equation from some point, you take some point in the interval. So you, in the Green's function definition, you have delta x minus xi, right? So xi is some point, x and xi both are points within the interval. X can take the endpoints also. It can be equal to a, it can be equal to b, but xi is some point within the closed interval ab. Now if you integrate about this point xi from the left, a little bit from the left hand side to the right hand side of this point xi, that equation for the Green's function with the Sturm-Liouville form of the operator, then you will get a condition like this, which says that the derivatives of the Green's function is not continuous at x is equal to xi. But you require the Green's function must be continuous. The Green's function itself must be continuous at x is equal to xi. So you have two conditions which the Green's function should satisfy. And what is G1 and what is G2? G1 is the solution of the homogeneous differential equation L hat x G1 is equal to 0 in the interval a less than equal to x less than xi, and G2 is the solution of the homogeneous differential equation L hat x G2 is equal to 0 in the interval xi less than x less than equal to b. Okay. Now we say that let ux be a solution of the homogeneous differential equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a. G1 also satisfies the boundary condition at x is equal to a. And Vx be a solution of the homogeneous differential equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to b. Similarly, G2 is also a solution of the homogeneous differential equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to b. If this is the case, then you can immediately write that G1 is this. It is proportional to u of x in this interval. G2 is proportional to v of x in this interval. So now our task is to find out what G1 and G2 are. Okay? Because the solution of the homogeneous differential equation, that can be found out. U of x, v of x, you can actually calculate. That is not a problem. So G1x is this, G2x is this. You put it in these conditions, and that will give rise to two equations for C1 and C2. Two simultaneous equations for C1 and C2. For a non-trivial solution of those simultaneous equations, the determinant formed by the coefficients of C1 and C2 must not vanish. And that determinant is basically this. It is the determinant formed by the solutions of the homogeneous differential equation. and that determinant is actually called the Wronskian. Okay. So you can calculate what C1 is and what C2 is in terms of the solution of the homogeneous part, and this is obviously this is the Wronskian. And now you substitute C1 and C2 here, so you know the form of G1 and G2. So our task is done. So what we need to calculate, our task to calculate the Green's function, our task is very simple. You just need to find out what this and what this are. So if you can calculate this, then C1 and C2 are determined in terms of this. That you can see. Therefore, the Green's function is calculated. You can calculate it. If you can calculate what Ux and Vx are, then you can calculate what the Green's function is. If you can calculate what the Green's function is, you can calculate what the particular integral is. What is the, you can calculate or you can find out the solution to the non-homogeneous differential equation. So you just keep the lesson that you should take in mind is that Green's function technique is a method or an approach to solve non-homogeneous differential equations. It's a very powerful technique, and it finds applications in all areas of physics, engineering, science, whatever. In physics, it finds applications in electrodynamics, in electrostatics, in electrodynamics, radiation theory, whatever thing you look at. Green's functions are an indispensable tool. It is actually in this context that George Green developed Green's function, and that was the famous paper that he wrote. It was an essay that he wrote in the 19th century, in the early 19th century probably, and it was a very important contribution to mathematical physics, and he developed it in the context of electrostatics at that point. And Green's function plays a role in, as I said, that it plays an important role in any area of physics. For example, in quantum mechanics, in statistical mechanics, in condensed matter physics, many body physics, quantum field theory, whatever area you look at, whatever field of theoretical physics you look at, Green's functions are a very powerful tool, or they are very important. So you must learn Green's function. This is my advice to you. You should have a fairly good knowledge of what Green's functions are. So now you can see that you have calculated C1 and C2 in terms of the solutions to the homogeneous part of the homogeneous differential equation. And if you can calculate what Ux and Vx are, then your task is fairly simple. You know what G1 and G2 are. Because the Green's function is known, therefore the solution to the non-homogeneous differential equation is also known. Now let us move a little bit further. Let us write down what this. So we have seen that this W of xi, this is basically nothing but U of xi V prime xi minus U prime xi V of xi. This is the Wronskian, and let me write down what G1 is. G1 x comma xi. This is the final solution. C1 is this, so G1 will be V of xi U of x divided by P of xi W of xi. In the interval, please remember what the interval is in this interval, and G2 x comma xi is equal to minus U of xi G2 is C2 into Vx, so it is minus U of xi into V of x by P of xi into W of xi. And that is, this is in the intervals I less than x less than or equal to V. Okay? So this is the final form of the Green's function. So you know what G1 and G2 are. and you can easily check that G1 and G2 indeed satisfies, is a cross check. Just check that G1 and G2 are equal at x is equal to xi. That is true. Just put x is equal to xi, G1 and G2 are equal. Take their derivatives and see it is equal to -1 by p xi. So those conditions are also satisfied. Now let us look at these solutions that we have found out a little bit more carefully. Let us look at these solutions a little bit carefully, and we can, so that we can find out some more interesting, we can make some more interesting observations. So for that, I will just make a small digression. Let us look at this differential equation. Second order differential equation, y double prime x plus p of x y prime x plus q of x yx is equal to 0. Let us look at this differential equation. This is just a digression. You will understand why I am doing this thing in a moment. So let us look at this differential equation, and let us say that y1x and y2x are two independent solutions. Of this differential equation. Okay? The y1x and y2x are two independent solutions of this. Then, what is the Wronskian? The Wronskian, as I mentioned, you remember that ux and vx were two linearly independent solutions, because ux was the solution of the homogeneous differential equation satisfying the boundary condition at x is equal to a, and vx satisfying at x is equal to b. Okay? And therefore, if y1 and y2 are two independent solutions, then the Wronskian is basically y1, y2 prime minus y1 prime, y2. This is by definition, because it is the determinant formed by the linearly independent solutions. And if the solutions are linearly independent, see, our condition for these formulas to hold true, you remember how we found out the solutions for C1 and C2. For a non-trivial solution of C1 and C2 to exist, the Wronskian has to be non-zero. And you remember that the Wronskian is formed by the solutions of the homogeneous differential equation, and the Wronskian can be non-zero only if the solutions are linearly independent. If the solutions are linearly dependent, then the Wronskian will be equal to 0. It will not be the Wronskian has to be like this. It cannot be equal to 0. But if the solutions, you remember that the solutions are, the Wronskian is basically formed out of y1, y2, y1 prime, y2 prime. This is the Wronskian by definition. This is not equal to 0. The Wronskian is not equal to 0, which is required here. Otherwise, the solutions does not make sense. The Wronskian is not equal to 0 only if the solutions y1 and y2 with which the Wronskian has been formed, this y1 and y2 are linearly independent. Then only it will be not equal to 0. If they are linearly dependent, then it will be equal to 0. That you can see easily, because if the solutions are linearly dependent, then you can write y2 as cy1. This is linearly dependent. y1 and y2 are no longer linearly independent. You have learned linear vector spaces, and you know what the meaning of linear dependence and linear independence is. So y2 is cy1. So this is cy1. And what is y2 prime? This is cy1 prime. Calculate the determinant. You will find that this is equal to cy1 y1 prime minus cy1 y1 prime, that is equal to 0. So the Wronskian can be only not equal to 0. The Wronskian can only be not equal to 0 if the solutions are linearly independent. If they are linearly dependent, then the Wronskian has to vanish. Okay. Now come back to this thing. So y1 and y2 are linearly independent solutions of this differential equation. By definition, this is this, the Wronskian is this, and since the solutions are linearly independent, therefore this must be not equal to 0. The Wronskian is not equal to 0. Take a derivative of this. Let us differentiate both sides. If you differentiate, you will get y1 prime, y2 prime plus y1, y2 double prime minus y1 prime double prime y2 plus y1 prime y2 prime. So this term and this term cancels, and this will be equal to minus y1 double prime y2 minus, so this will be equal to y1 y2 double prime minus y1 double prime. Okay, so this will be equal to this. Now y2 and y1 are solutions of this equation. Therefore, you can use the fact that this is y1. What is y2 double prime? Y2 double prime from this differential equation, it is minus p of x, y2 prime of x minus q of x, y2 prime. Just substitute what y2 prime is from this differential equation. And what is y1 double prime? Y1 double prime is minus p of x, y1 prime minus q of x, y1 into y2. Okay. So we have substituted what y2 double prime is and y1 double prime is from this equation. Now you can see from this expression that this term, let me just check, this will be qx y2, not y2 prime. This will be y2. You can see from this expression that this is y1, y2 minus q of x. This term will cancel this term. So these are gone. And therefore, this is equal to, let me write it here, this is equal to, you can take p of x common. So this will be minus p of x. And then it will be y1, y2 prime minus y1 prime, y2. And that is equal to minus p of x, w of x. So what we have proved is that if y1 and y2 are two independent solutions of the differential equation, therefore their Wronskian is not equal to 0, obviously, and therefore we have proved that w prime x is basically equal to minus p of x, w of x. This is the differential equation satisfied by the Wronskian. Therefore, dw by w is equal to minus p of x. If you integrate, this will give us wx is equal to e to the power of minus integral p of x dx. So this is the form of the Wronskian. W of x will be something like this. Okay, it will be e to the power of minus integral px dx. So this is the digression that I wanted to do with you. Now let us come back again to the Green's function stories. Okay. Let us come back to the Green's function. Remember that L hat x, let us consider the homogeneous differential equation. This is the homogeneous differential equation. Okay? And our aim is to find out the solution of the non-homogeneous differential equation. L hat x is in the Sturm-Liouville form. So we have d dx px y prime x plus q of x y of x equal to 0. Okay, and if you just work this out through, then you will get p of x y double prime plus p prime x y prime plus q of x y is equal to 0. Divide by p of x. Obviously, this division is possible only if it is not equal to 0. But as I mentioned earlier, p of x can have zeros at the endpoints x is equal to a, x is equal to b. That thing is there. You can make provision for that. But it has no zeros inside the interval, in open interval. Okay? So this differential equation can be written in this form: p of x y prime plus q of x y is equal to 0. This is the differential equation that we considered just now in the digression. Therefore, you can read off what p of x is. P of x is small p prime x by px, and q of x is small qx by px. So this is what capital Px is, and this is what capital Qx is. Now you remember what is the Wronskian? The Wronskian for this differential equation. If y1 and y2 are two independent solutions of this differential equation, then we have just now seen that the Wronskian is basically nothing but e to the power of integral p of x dx. This is the Wronskian that we have just now proved. And here also, now you just look at this differential equation. And here also, ux and vx are two linearly independent solutions, right? Then only the Wronskian will be not equal to 0. Otherwise, if they are linearly dependent, the Wronskian will be equal to 0. And therefore, what is the Wronskian for this case? It is very simple, because it is once again px dx integral. But what is capital Px? Capital Px is this thing, p prime small p prime. So this is integral p prime x by p of x dx. But this is nothing but e to the power of minus log ln p, apart from some constant. You can put some constant, obviously. So you can put some constant here. This will be some constant a, capital A. You can put a constant here, put a constant here. So this will be a to the power minus log p, and therefore this is equal to a by px. The Wronskian is nothing but some constant by p of x. And what does this tell us? It tells us that w of x into small p of x is nothing but equal to some constant. This formula w of x is equal to a by p of x. It is called Abel's formula. Abel's formula, after the famous mathematician Abel. Okay, you have the Abel prize named after him. So this formula is called the Abel's formula. It tells us that wx px is actually some constant. You go back to the formula for the Green's function g1. What was g1? If you remember, g1 was minus v xi u of x by p xi w xi. In the interval what? In this interval, right? This was g1 of function of x comma xi. But what is p xi w xi. See, we have just now proved that px wx for any x, it is some constant. It is a constant. Therefore, p xi w xi is also a constant, and that constant is, you can replace it by some a. It is some constant. Similarly, g2 x comma xi is equal to minus u of xi v of x by, again, p xi w xi, but p xi w xi is some constant a, and this is the form in the interval this. So this is an interesting observation that you can actually write down g1 like v xi ux by some constant, and g2 as minus u xi vx by some constant. Constant value is the same for both the cases. It is p xi w xi. So I will not have much more time to discuss. Now you can solve with this formalism that we have developed for evaluating the Green's function, finding the Green's function. You can now take up any problem. You can solve a problem, and I would like to give you a problem that you can try at home. Try to do at home using these formulas. What you can do is, you can try to solve. You can try to solve this. Let me write it over here. So I give you a homework. You take L hat x to be d2 dx2 plus omega square, and you solve this equation. You find out the Green's function is equal to f of x, and you remember that you should remember that y at x is equal to 0 is equal to 0, y at x is equal to L. So these are the boundary conditions that y should satisfy in the solution of the this differential equation. L hat x, y of x is equal to f of x. You should try to solve this differential equation. F of x is some known function. I don't give you the form of the function, so your solution will be in terms of f of x, obviously. What is the operator L hat x? d2 dx2 plus omega square. You can easily check that this is a self-adjoint operator. It is actually in the Sturm-Liouville form. And what is the boundary condition that y of x should satisfy? Y at x is equal to 0 should be equal to 0, and similarly y at x is equal to L should also be equal to 0. These are the boundary conditions that I impose on the solutions of y of x. So your task is to solve this non-homogeneous differential equation using these formulas. So the strategy that you should take is to first calculate what g1 and g2 are. What is the form of the Green's function? So in order to calculate the Green's function, what you need to do is that you need to look at the solutions of the homogeneous differential equation. That is, L at x, yx is equal to 0. L at x, yx is equal to 0 for this operator, it is actually very simple. It is a harmonic oscillator. And you know what the solutions of a harmonic oscillator are, right? You take those solutions and you demand that there will be one solution, it will be y1 that should satisfy the boundary condition at x is equal to 0, and y2 will satisfy this boundary condition at x is equal to L. So you know what ux and vx are, right? If you know what ux and vx are, then you know what g1 and g2 are, because I have given you the formulas for g1 and g2. So first of all, you should try to calculate what g1 and g2 are. So if you can calculate what g1 and g2 are, now you can proceed to calculate what is the form of the solution y of x. You just put g1 and g2 inside that integral which I gave you, the form of the solution, and you can write down the full solution. So this I leave it to you as a homework exercise. So with this, I would like to stop here. So I would also like to wish you all the best for your examinations. So you just go through the material that we have been discussing about operators, self-adjoint operators, how to calculate the adjoint operator, Lagrange identity, Green's identity, domain of an operator. Look at these concepts, and then look at what self-adjoint operators are. Then you can also have a look at Green's function. So you can look at these things. And in complex variable analysis, you look at what do you mean by an analytic function, what do you mean by this neighborhood, the open disk, these concepts, the annular region, look at these things. Then the Cauchy-Riemann conditions, look at these things. Then you look at the Cauchy integral formula, the Green's theorem, and the residue theorem, how to calculate the residues. You look at these things. Then you look at Cauchy residue theorem, how to calculate real integrals involving real functions of x using the Cauchy residue theorem, and that would be enough for your course. And you also remember that you should also look at the things that were taught by Professor Ravin Banerjee, the things on group theory and linear vector spaces. So whatever he have taught, so for the examination that you have to give, the final examination will be on the full thing that has been taught to you, that has been discussed in these lectures. So you look at the full thing, and I think you will do fairly well in your exams. Do you have any questions?
So what will be the full marks of the examination?
The full marks of the examination will be 25. It will be out of 25. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. There will be choices, and I think you will be able to answer. You should also look at, in complex analysis, you should look at how to make Taylor series expansions, LoRa series expansions. These are very important to look at these things. How to calculate residues, how to calculate real integrals using Cauchy integral theorem. And differential operators, I have taken 4 or 5 classes, maybe 4 classes or 5 classes. So you look at the things that has been taught to you. Okay.
And sir, 2 of the videos I get, and the others.
Okay. Yes, I will try to forward it by today. I will give it to you by today. Okay. So did you manage to download the videos?
Yes, sir, it's opening.
Okay, very good. So I will give it to you today. Okay. So thank you very much, and so course ends here.